The queen shouted, "He is my human," and the hall fell into silence. He pressed his hands against the cold metal of the observation panel, heart pounding in anticipation. He had crossed countless light years to arrive here, traveling from a world where humans were considered a curious, unpredictable species. This was a place where intellect and order ruled, and emotion was often seen as weakness. Ilior, however, was about to prove that humans had more to offer than anyone could imagine. The docking bay was massive, far larger than any Ilior had seen before. Towering alien beings moved gracefully across the polished floor, their forms lit by glowing circuits that ran like veins beneath their skin. They moved silently, efficiently, their eyes glowing with intelligence. Ilior felt a mix of awe and unease. For the first time in his life, he truly felt small, not in the sense of danger, but in the presence of something far greater than himself. He tried to steady his breathing, reminding himself that he was here for a purpose, to negotiate a delicate alliance between humans and the Xiforan Empire. Two beings approached him, their forms slender but undeniably powerful. They spoke in a language Ilior could not understand, but a translation device implanted in his ear turned their words into clear English. "You will come before the council immediately," said the taller one, its voice smooth and controlled. "The queen wishes to see you." The alien's glowing eyes studied him as if measuring the weight of his soul. Ilior nodded, feeling a sudden rush of anxiety. He was a representative of humanity, and the fate of his people rested on the coming hours. The hall where the council met was vast beyond imagination. Its ceiling stretched high above, adorned with floating crystals that pulsed softly with light. Each crystal seemed to hum in harmony with the others, creating a gentle, almost musical resonance that filled the room. Council members of every imaginable shape and color were seated around an immense circular platform, their eyes turned toward him. Some had wings that shimmered like silk in motion. Others had multiple arms, each moving independently in gestures of conversation. Ilior had expected alien beings, but the diversity, the sophistication, and the sheer majesty of them took his breath away. At the far end of the hall, on a raised dais, sat Queen Seraphina. She was unlike any being Ilior had seen. Her form was tall and elegant, her skin shimmering with a metallic sheen that shifted in color with the movement of light. Her eyes, deep and intelligent, studied him intently. Unlike the council members, she did not whisper or exchange glances with others. She observed him alone, as though she could see straight through him. Ilior felt a strange mix of fear and respect. The entire room seemed to quiet down, as if the air itself waited for the first word. The council members began murmuring among themselves. Words translated through Ilior's device. "Why a human? What is he capable of? Humans are impulsive, dangerous in their unpredictability. Perhaps a test is required to measure his worth." Ilior stood tall, despite the rapid beating of his heart. He had prepared for months, studying every known aspect of Xiforan society, learning their language, understanding their politics. But no preparation could fully ready him for the weight of 100 alien eyes focused entirely on him. The tallest council member, a being with 4 arms and crystalline skin, stepped forward. Its voice echoed through the hall. "Human, you are here to prove yourself. Xiforans value intellect, courage, and precision. Your species is known for none of these qualities in sufficient measure. You must show us why you are worthy of our time." Ilior nodded. "I understand," he replied, his voice steady despite the storm of nerves inside him. "I am here to demonstrate that humans have much to offer. Not by force, but through creativity, adaptability, and the will to act." He could see the surprise flicker across some faces. They were used to compliance, to beings who followed protocol without question. He was already breaking their expectations. A holographic display materialized before him, projecting a complex network of symbols, shapes, and numbers. "First, You must solve the puzzle of the hypergrid, the council declared. It is a test of logic, adaptability, and ingenuity. Fail, and you will leave this hall with nothing but lessons learned. Elior studied the grid. At first glance, it seemed impossible. The symbols changed continuously, and the network expanded and contracted with patterns that made no immediate sense. But Elior remembered his training. Humans were not always the fastest learners, but they were inventive. They could think outside constraints. He took a deep breath and began examining the patterns, looking for connections others might overlook. Minutes passed, stretching into what felt like hours. The council watched silently. Elior moved pieces of the virtual puzzle, rotating sections, experimenting with combinations that seemed unconventional. Slowly, a pattern emerged. He recognized symmetry where the Xiphorans saw chaos. He applied principles from mathematics and human intuition, making leaps of logic that were unorthodox yet effective. At last, the grid stabilized, glowing with a harmonious light. Elior exhaled, heart racing. The council members leaned forward, expressions a mixture of astonishment and disbelief. Queen Seraphina remained silent, her eyes narrowed in thought. "Interesting," she said at last, her voice calm but carrying weight that silenced the entire hall. "Humans are not predictable. They do not follow known patterns, yet their unpredictability allows them to create solutions no algorithm could anticipate." Elior bowed respectfully. "I am honored that you consider it so." The queen's gaze softened, a subtle recognition passing through her. Elior could not fully interpret it, but he sensed a shift in the room's energy. He was no longer just an outsider. He was someone whose presence demanded attention. The council continued with other tests, each designed to challenge different aspects of human capability. One involved moral reasoning, requiring Elior to make decisions that balanced individual rights with the collective good. Another was a simulation of interstellar navigation, demanding quick thinking under pressure. Each time, Elior relied on creativity, empathy, and boldness. The Xiphorans were precise, analytical, and logical, yet they lacked the human instinct to take risks guided by intuition. With every test, Elior's confidence grew, as did the astonishment of his audience. Finally, a pause fell over the hall. The queen rose from her seat, her movements graceful and commanding. She approached Elior, and the murmurs of the council faded into complete silence. "Human," she said, her voice echoing softly in the vast hall, "you have done what none of us expected. You have shown courage, intelligence, and something we rarely understand, the spark of unpredictability that leads to brilliance." Elior felt a warmth spread through him. He had entered this hall as a representative of humanity, but he was beginning to feel a connection, a bridge forming between his species and this alien civilization. As the queen returned to her dais, the council members whispered among themselves. Elior could sense their debate. Some were impressed, others skeptical. Yet all were now aware of something undeniable. Humans were capable of more than they had anticipated. For the first time in Xiphoran history, a human was not merely an object of curiosity. He was a potential partner, a mind that could complement their own. Elior understood that this was only the beginning. The path ahead would be challenging, filled with uncertainty and danger, but also opportunity. Outside the hall, the city of Xiphora shimmered in the evening light. Elior caught glimpses of streets lined with floating vehicles, gardens that glowed with bioluminescent plants, and towers that reached impossibly high into the sky. Yet none of this impressed him more than the knowledge that he had earned, even in a small way, the respect of a civilization far older and more advanced than his own. Humanity, he realized, was about to take its first steps into a larger galaxy, not through dominance, but through ingenuity, courage, and the capacity to surprise even the most logical minds. As night fell over the city, Elior's thoughts returned to the coming challenges. The council's tests had only been the beginning. There were decisions to make, alliances to negotiate, and mysteries of the universe to confront. But for the first time, he felt that humans had a real place in this vast expanse. They were not just observers. They could be innovators, problem solvers, and catalysts for change. Elior knew that whatever came next, he would face it with the full measure of human spirit, adaptable, courageous, and unafraid to chart a course where none had dared before. In that silent moment, under the watchful eyes of Queen Seraphina and the Council of Zyphora, Elior felt something extraordinary. He was no longer just an individual from a distant planet. He was a symbol, a proof of humanity's potential in the cosmos. And as he looked around the hall, absorbing the grandeur, the complexity, and the wisdom of this alien civilization, he made a quiet vow to himself. He would not merely survive in this world. He would ensure that humans would thrive and be remembered not as the species that arrived late, but as the species that could inspire awe across the stars. The morning sun reflected off the polished surfaces of the palace, casting long, glowing patterns across the grand hall. Elior awoke with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The previous day's events replayed in his mind, the tests, the council's scrutiny, and Queen Seraphina's measured yet approving gaze. Though he had succeeded in proving some of humanity's worth, he knew that the council's challenges were far from over. If anything, they were only beginning. As he entered the council chamber again, the room seemed even larger in the bright light. The glowing crystals above pulsed gently, almost as if they were observing him too. Council members took their seats, and this time there was no whispering. Their eyes, sharp and watchful, focused entirely on him. The tension was thick, yet it carried an undercurrent of curiosity. Elior could feel that they were eager to see what a human would do next, but wary of the unpredictability that came with his kind. Queen Seraphina descended from her dais with a grace that seemed to command both respect and attention. Her metallic skin shimmered with subtle hues of gold and silver, and her eyes, deep and intelligent, studied him intently. "Human," she said, her voice calm yet carrying authority, "you have proven ingenuity under controlled conditions. Now we will see your judgment and adaptability under circumstances that are less predictable. You will face challenges that require insight, intuition, and moral reasoning. These are the qualities we value in a leader." Elior nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle firmly on his shoulders. This was no longer a test of skill alone, it was a test of character. The first task was not a puzzle or simulation. Instead, a scenario unfolded on the hall's holographic display. A small colony on a distant moon was facing a crisis. Resources were limited, and there was conflict among the inhabitants. Some demanded that resources be allocated to the strongest and most capable, while others argued for fairness and equality. Elior had only a few minutes to decide how the colony should proceed. He considered the situation carefully. In human history, such challenges often required compromise, empathy, and creative problem-solving. He made a choice that balanced efficiency with fairness, proposing a solution that allowed every inhabitant to contribute according to their strengths while ensuring no one was left behind. The council members studied him closely. Some tilted their heads, analyzing the decision with precision, while others seemed visibly impressed by the nuanced approach. Elior realized that humans had an advantage here, the ability to blend logic with empathy. Zyphorans, advanced and intelligent as they were, often struggled to understand the importance of human emotion and intuition in decision-making. In moments where certainty was impossible, humans could adapt and act with a combination of courage and compassion. Next came a simulation that tested his ability to react under pressure. A spacecraft was caught in an uncharted gravitational field, and Elior had to plot a course to navigate it safely out of danger. The holographic controls were complex, the indicators shifting rapidly as the simulation progressed. Elior's training in human spacecraft, combined with his instinctive problem-solving skills, guided him. He relied not only on calculated maneuvers, but also on gut feeling, intuition honed through years of experience. The craft responded to his commands with perfect precision, and the simulation ended successfully. The council remained silent for a moment, as if absorbing what they had witnessed. It was clear. Human adaptability in unpredictable circumstances was exceptional. A pause followed, and Elior noticed the subtle exchange of glances among the council members. They were intrigued, even impressed, yet cautious. Humans, after all, were known for their impulsive nature, and unpredictability could be a double-edged sword. Queen Seraphina rose again, her eyes meeting Elior's. "You do not follow the predictable paths we expect," she said. "Yet your solutions demonstrate creativity and insight. We must acknowledge that human ingenuity has merit, even if it challenges our understanding." Her words were both recognition and warning. Elior understood that he had earned respect but not yet complete trust. Then, without warning, a new challenge appeared on the display, a cosmic anomaly approaching the Xiforan sector. The simulation was no longer a test. It felt like a real threat. Aliens around the hall murmured nervously. Their minds, advanced and logical, quickly ran calculations to predict the anomaly's trajectory. Yet uncertainty remained. The Queen turned to Elior. "We cannot act quickly enough. You will propose a course of action." Elior examined the data, recognizing patterns and anomalies that were invisible to even their advanced technology. Humans had a different perspective, an ability to combine creativity with quick decision-making. Elior's mind raced, connecting ideas that others might have overlooked. He suggested a method that involved synchronizing Xiforan technology with an untested human process, one that relied on rapid adjustments and improvisation. The council hesitated. Risk was dangerous in their eyes, but waiting could be worse. Queen Seraphina studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Proceed," she said. "Lead the operation." A wave of responsibility surged through Elior. Lives, perhaps the fate of the sector, now depended on his decisions. Yet he did not falter. Humans were defined not just by caution but by courage, the willingness to act when certainty was impossible. As the operation began, Elior worked alongside Xiforan engineers, combining his knowledge with their technology. They moved with precision, guided by his unconventional suggestions. The humans' ability to improvise under pressure allowed them to find solutions that machines alone could not predict. The anomaly's energy patterns shifted unexpectedly, but Elior adapted, adjusting parameters with intuition and calculated risk. Slowly, the threat was contained, the energy stabilizing into harmless forms. The council members exchanged astonished looks. Even Queen Seraphina, calm as always, allowed a subtle expression of approval to cross her features. The hall erupted into quiet admiration. Elior's actions had not only averted disaster, but had demonstrated a human strength the Xiforans rarely saw: ingenuity in unpredictable circumstances. He realized that what made humans remarkable was not raw intelligence, nor advanced technology alone, but the combination of creativity, courage, and adaptability. Even in the face of uncertainty, humans could act decisively, guided by insight and empathy. For the first time, Elior felt that humans were not just visitors in this advanced civilization. They were participants, capable of making a real difference. Queen Seraphina spoke again, her voice calm but carrying weight. "You have acted decisively where we hesitated. You have demonstrated that humans possess qualities we admire, yet often fail to understand: courage, creativity, and adaptability. Your presence here is no longer a curiosity. It is an example of what can be achieved when diverse minds work together." Elior bowed, grateful but aware that the journey was far from complete. This acknowledgement was significant, but the council would continue to observe him, test him, and measure the worth of his species. As the council recessed, Ilior found a quiet corridor to gather his thoughts. He had faced tests of intellect, morality, and adaptability, and had succeeded, yet he knew challenges lay ahead. Xiphorans valued collaboration, but they also tested rigorously to ensure loyalty, competence, and insight. Humans, by their nature, were often underestimated, but Ilior could see the spark of recognition forming in even the most skeptical eyes. He realized that this was more than just proving himself. It was paving the way for human potential to be acknowledged across the galaxy. Later, Ilior was escorted to a chamber where he could rest and prepare for future sessions with the council. The room overlooked the glowing city, towers and spires stretching toward the stars. In that moment, he felt a profound connection between human curiosity and the vast possibilities of the universe. Humans had always been explorers, risk-takers, problem-solvers, and dreamers. On this distant world, those traits were no longer anomalies. They were strengths that could inspire even the most advanced civilizations. Ilior's thoughts turned to Queen Seraphina. There was something extraordinary about her recognition of human potential. She had observed, judged, and yet, in her own measured way, validated him. He realized that building trust here would require patience, insight, and continued demonstration of human ingenuity. Every decision, every action would matter, yet he felt ready. Humans had always faced challenges far greater than themselves, and in the vastness of space, they could adapt, innovate, and thrive. As night fell over Xiphora, Ilior looked out at the city lights. The tests had been difficult, but they were only the beginning of a journey that would define the place of humanity in a universe filled with advanced civilizations. He knew that human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability could bridge gaps, solve problems, and forge alliances that were once thought impossible. And deep down, he understood that this was a moment not just for himself, but for all of humanity, a chance to show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of when they dared to act with both mind and heart. Ilior awoke to the gentle hum of the palace, the light filtering through walls that seemed alive with energy. The events of the previous day weighed heavily on his mind. He had proven his worth in intellect, adaptability, and moral judgment, but he knew the council would not stop testing him. They were cautious and wise, and humans, by their nature, were still unpredictable. Ilior had come to understand that unpredictability could be both an advantage and a challenge in a society that prized precision above all. As he entered the council hall, he was greeted not by whispering but by focused anticipation. The council members had assembled earlier than usual, their eyes on him, sharp and observant. The glowing crystals above pulsed softly, casting shifting patterns across the marble floor. There was a sense of urgency in the room today. Ilior felt it immediately. Something had changed. Queen Seraphina descended from her dais, her presence commanding complete attention. Her gaze fixed on him, serious yet not without the faintest hint of curiosity. "Human," she began, her voice resonating across the hall, "you have demonstrated the potential of your species in controlled scenarios. Now, you will face challenges that require not only thought and insight, but also action. The situation is no longer theoretical. The sector faces an imminent anomaly, and your judgment will be tested as events unfold in real time." The room grew silent. Ilior's heart quickened. Until now, the challenges had been simulations and tests, controlled scenarios designed to measure capability. This was the first time that the council expected him to act in a situation with tangible stakes. He swallowed his fear, reminding himself that humans had always risen to challenges far greater than themselves, even when odds were against them. A holographic display unfolded in the center of the hall. It showed a massive anomaly, a swirling vortex of energy moving unpredictably through space. Xiphoran sensors had detected its approach, and preliminary calculations suggested it could disrupt the stability of multiple colonies. The Council had been analyzing data for hours, yet they had made little progress. Their technology was advanced, but their methodical approach was slow. The anomaly did not wait. Ilior studied the readings. Patterns emerged, small irregularities in the energy flow that the Xiphorans had overlooked. He recognized that the anomaly required not just calculation, but intuition, something human minds excelled at when combined with creativity. He took a deep breath and began proposing adjustments to the containment protocols, blending Xiphoran technology with unconventional methods drawn from human engineering and improvisation. A murmur passed through the council. His suggestions were daring, untested, even dangerous by Xiphoran standards. Queen Seraphina watched him quietly, her expression unreadable. Then, after a tense pause, she nodded. "Proceed," she commanded. "Lead the team." Ilior felt a surge of determination. This was the moment where human ingenuity could prove its value beyond theoretical tests. He quickly assembled a team of Xiphoran engineers, explaining his plan with clarity and confidence. They followed his instructions, though some moved hesitantly, unsure of this unconventional approach. Ilior relied on his ability to inspire trust, showing that humans could not only think creatively, but also guide others through uncertainty. He reminded himself to remain calm, to observe patterns, and to adapt rapidly as conditions changed. The anomaly reacted unpredictably, shifting energy streams and creating unexpected turbulence. Machines that had been calibrated for precise control began to falter. The council observed tensely, expecting chaos, but Ilior did not panic. He analyzed the changes, adjusting the approach with quick, intuitive reasoning. He suggested modifications to the containment field that synchronized with fluctuations in the anomaly's energy. Slowly, the vortex began to stabilize. Council members leaned forward, their expressions a mixture of astonishment and admiration. They had relied on their calculations, but humans did not always follow predictable logic. Ilior's improvisation, guided by instinct and creative thinking, worked where rigid algorithms might have failed. The anomaly's energy began to form a stable pattern, contained safely without causing damage to surrounding systems. Queen Seraphina rose, her voice calm but carrying the weight of acknowledgement. "Human," she said, her eyes meeting his, "your actions have prevented what could have been a catastrophe. You have demonstrated courage, insight, and the ability to lead in circumstances where certainty is impossible. Your presence here is no longer a test of curiosity. It is a demonstration of what humanity can offer." Ilior felt a quiet satisfaction. The acknowledgement was significant, but he knew that trust and respect had to be continually earned. The council discussed his actions among themselves, their voices low but animated. They debated, not in anger, but in genuine curiosity and evaluation. Humans, they noted, had a unique advantage: the ability to adapt rapidly, to act decisively when patterns were unclear, and to consider creative solutions that machines and highly logical minds might overlook. Ilior realized that this acknowledgement was only the beginning. There would be more tests, more opportunities to prove humanity's worth on an interstellar scale. After the immediate crisis passed, Ilior was allowed a moment of respite. He walked along the palace corridors, observing the architecture that seemed almost alive. Walls shifted subtly with light. Floors reflected images that changed depending on the observer's movement, and corridors extended in ways that challenged spatial perception. Xiphora was a civilization of astounding beauty and intelligence, yet Ilior could not help but see the parallel to humanity's own potential. Both were explorers, creators, and problem solvers. The difference was in approach. Humans relied on intuition, courage, and creativity, while Xiphorans relied on logic, calculation, and precision. As Ilior returned to his quarters, he reflected on the events of the day. The Council's challenges had tested not only his intellect but his ability to act under pressure. Humans were often underestimated by advanced civilizations, yet here, he had demonstrated that unpredictability, far from being a weakness, could be a strength. In moments of uncertainty, humans could make bold decisions, innovate rapidly, and inspire cooperation among allies. This realization gave him renewed confidence. That evening, the palace gardens offered a rare moment of tranquility. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly, casting delicate light across fountains that shimmered with energy. Ilior sat quietly, contemplating the anomaly, the council, and the queen's words. Humanity's journey into space had often been challenging, filled with obstacles that seemed insurmountable. Yet humans had always adapted, innovated, and overcome. Now, on an alien world, he realized that those same qualities could inspire and assist civilizations far older and more advanced than his own. As night deepened, Ilior received a summons from Queen Serafina herself. He entered her chambers with a mixture of respect and anticipation. The room was filled with soft, ambient light, and the queen's form shimmered subtly with energy. "Human," she said, "you have shown courage and insight. The Council recognizes your achievements, yet there is a greater challenge approaching. The anomaly was only a precursor. There are forces in the sector that require foresight, diplomacy, and leadership. You must prepare to act not only as an individual, but as a representative of your species." Ilior listened intently. He understood the gravity of her words. His presence here was no longer about personal achievement. It was about humanity's place in the galaxy, the ability to influence outcomes, and to contribute meaningfully to a civilization far beyond Earth. He felt a mixture of pride, responsibility, and determination. This was the opportunity for humanity to prove its worth on a scale never before imagined. The Queen continued, explaining a complex situation involving multiple colonies at risk, political tensions among neighboring star systems, and potential threats from unknown cosmic phenomena. Ilior absorbed the information, recognizing that the solutions would require not only intellect but creativity, courage, and human intuition. The Council's approach had been methodical, yet the situation demanded rapid adaptation. Ilior's mind raced with strategies, weighing options, predicting outcomes, and imagining contingencies. Over the next several hours, Ilior worked alongside Xiforan advisors and engineers. He proposed methods that integrated human flexibility with Xiforan precision. The Council observed closely, analyzing each suggestion and predicting potential outcomes. Ilior's ability to innovate, combined with the Queen's willingness to trust him, began to shift perceptions. Humans, once underestimated, were now being recognized as valuable collaborators in matters of strategy, technology, and diplomacy. By the end of the session, a plan had been formulated that balanced risk and reward, creativity and precision, intuition and calculation. The Council was impressed, and for the first time, some members openly expressed admiration for human ingenuity. Queen Serafina's gaze met Ilior's, and though her expression remained composed, there was a subtle recognition of respect and trust. He had proven that humans could act decisively, think creatively, and inspire cooperation among beings far older and more advanced than themselves. As the Council adjourned, Ilior felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. The tests had been difficult, the stakes high, but humans had shown that they could rise to challenges others might consider impossible. The anomaly had been contained, colonies had been protected, and human ingenuity had earned respect on an interstellar stage. Yet Ilior knew that this was only the beginning. Greater challenges awaited, and the journey to secure humanity's place among the stars had just begun. That night, as Ilior gazed out across the glowing city of Xiphora, he reflected on the qualities that made humans extraordinary. Courage, creativity, adaptability, and empathy. These were the traits that had allowed him to succeed where pure logic might have faltered. In the vastness of space, these traits were more than survival tools. They were strengths that could shape the future of entire civilizations. He understood that humanity's role in the galaxy was no longer uncertain. It was a role defined by action, insight, and the unyielding spirit to confront the unknown. Elior's thoughts turned again to Queen Seraphina. She had observed him carefully, evaluated his actions, and yet, in her own measured way, had allowed him to demonstrate the value of human potential. Trust and recognition had been earned, but he knew that maintaining it would require continual effort, insight, and courage. Humans were capable of extraordinary things, and he would ensure that every opportunity to prove it was seized with determination and clarity of purpose. By the time Elior returned to his quarters, the city lights of Zyphora twinkled below him like stars reflected in water. He felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humans were no longer just visitors in this vast, complex civilization. They had the ability to shape outcomes, inspire confidence, and forge connections that could influence the future of the galaxy itself. The challenges ahead would be formidable, but with creativity, courage, and human ingenuity, Elior knew that they could meet and exceed them. As sleep finally claimed him, Elior dreamed not of tests or anomalies, but of a future where humans and Zyphorans, and perhaps countless other species, could work together. A future where unpredictability was a strength, creativity a weapon, and courage a bridge between worlds. He awoke ready to face whatever the next day would bring, confident that humanity's place among the stars was just beginning, and that through insight, ingenuity, and unwavering spirit, humans would leave a mark that no civilization could ignore. The warning alarms echoed softly. Through the palace halls, a subtle but urgent hum that drew Elior from his rest. The anomaly that had threatened the sector days earlier had shifted unpredictably, and new readings suggested that it was expanding toward populated regions. This was no simulation or test. This was real. Elior's mind raced as he quickly donned his communicator and made his way to the council hall, each step filled with purpose. Humans thrived in moments like these, when challenges demanded quick thinking, courage, and ingenuity. He felt that same energy surging through him now. When Elior entered the council hall, the atmosphere was tense. The council members were already gathered, their forms glowing faintly with anxious energy. Even the usually composed Queen Seraphina appeared concerned. She greeted him with a nod, signaling that she trusted his judgment in this unprecedented situation. The anomaly, projected in 3 dimensions above the center of the hall, twisted and churned with raw energy. It pulsated unpredictably, threatening to destabilize colonies and warp the surrounding space. The council had already run calculations for containment, but their methods were slow and overly cautious. Elior realized that human instinct and adaptability might be the key to saving the sector. He immediately began analyzing the data. Patterns emerged, small fluctuations that Zyphoran technology had ignored or considered insignificant. Elior recognized a rhythm in the chaos, a hidden structure that humans were trained to notice through intuition and observation. He proposed a plan that combined the most advanced Zyphoran technology with unconventional human strategies. Instead of relying solely on automated systems, he suggested real-time adaptive control, where decisions could be adjusted instinctively as the anomaly shifted. The council exchanged nervous glances. Their experience told them such methods were risky, yet waiting might lead to disaster. Queen Seraphina's voice cut through the tension. "Lead the operation, human. Show us what your species is capable of." Elior felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He gathered a team of engineers and scientists, Zyphoran and human alike, and began coordinating the complex operation. His voice was calm but firm, providing guidance while allowing room for others' expertise. The team moved quickly, following his lead, though some were initially hesitant. Human leadership often surprised them. The ability to inspire action, adapt to changing conditions, and make decisive moves under uncertainty was rare among the Xiphorans. As the operation began, the anomaly's behavior was unpredictable. Energy streams surged and twisted, threatening to destabilize the entire containment field. Machines calibrated for precision struggled to respond. Ilior, however, relied on human intuition and creativity. He suggested adjustments in real time, using unconventional methods that Xiphoran engineers could implement with his guidance. Each move was calculated yet flexible, a balance between logic and improvisation. Slowly, the containment began to stabilize. The anomaly's violent movements softened, responding to the combined effort of human ingenuity and Xiphoran technology. Council members observed in stunned silence. Even the most skeptical could not deny what they were witnessing. Humans, often underestimated for their impulsive tendencies, had demonstrated an extraordinary ability to adapt under pressure, combining creativity with decisive action. Ilior realized that what made humans remarkable was not raw intelligence alone, but the willingness to take calculated risks, to innovate, and to inspire cooperation among allies. The anomaly, once a chaotic threat, was now contained, its energy harmonized into a stable pattern. The Queen stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with quiet approval. "Human," she said, her voice calm but full of authority, "your actions have prevented what could have been a catastrophe. You have shown courage, insight, and leadership. Humanity's potential is no longer theoretical. It is evident in your actions today." Ilior bowed respectfully. He felt a surge of pride, but also the awareness that this was just one step in a much larger journey. The Council's acknowledgement was significant, yet he knew that the true test of humanity's place in the galaxy had only begun. Following the operation, Ilior spent hours analyzing the anomaly's data with Xiphoran scientists. He proposed improvements to monitoring systems and early warning protocols, blending human adaptability with Xiphoran precision. The scientists were fascinated by his approach, realizing that human ingenuity could complement their advanced technology in ways previously unconsidered. Ilior's presence was no longer seen as an experiment, but as an opportunity for collaboration. Humans had a role to play in the galaxy, not as observers but as innovators, problem solvers, and catalysts for progress. Later, Ilior was summoned to meet with Queen Seraphina privately. Her chamber was quiet, illuminated by soft ambient light that shimmered off her metallic skin. "You have done well," she said, her voice calm but carrying weight. "The Council recognizes your achievements, yet there are other challenges ahead. Your ability to adapt, to act decisively, and to inspire others has been proven, but trust must be maintained. You must continue to demonstrate the value of humanity, not just through action, but through understanding and cooperation." Ilior nodded, absorbing her words. He understood that leadership required more than skill. It required foresight, empathy, and the capacity to build trust. Over the following days, Ilior worked tirelessly with the Council. He coordinated resources across multiple colonies, advised on technological adaptations, and mediated discussions between species with differing priorities. His human perspective, grounded in flexibility, creativity, and moral reasoning, offered solutions that Xiphorans had not considered. Time and again, his actions prevented potential crises, earning admiration and slowly transforming skepticism into respect. During one particularly challenging session, a neighboring star system reported anomalies that threatened trade routes and communication channels. The Council's automated systems provided data, but the interpretation required human judgment. Elior analyzed the situation and proposed a solution that balanced immediate risk with long-term stability. His plan involved dynamic routing, rapid adjustments, and coordination between multiple teams, methods that relied heavily on adaptability and human intuition. The council approved his strategy, and the results exceeded expectations. The trade routes remained secure, and the system was stabilized without conflict or loss. Word of Elior's success spread quickly throughout the palace and the wider sector. Humans, once viewed as unpredictable and secondary, were now seen as capable of contributing meaningfully to interstellar strategy and problem-solving. Elior realized that perception was as important as action. By demonstrating the strengths of humanity in real situations, he had begun to build a foundation of respect and trust. Humans were not just survivors, they were innovators, collaborators, and leaders capable of facing the unknown with courage and creativity. Despite the growing recognition, Elior remained humble. He knew that the galaxy was vast, filled with challenges that required constant adaptation. His goal was not personal glory, but the advancement of humanity's role in the universe. Every decision he made was guided by the principle that humans could complement and enhance civilizations far older and more advanced. By blending intuition, creativity, and courage, they could contribute in ways that machines or rigid logic alone could not achieve. One evening, after a particularly demanding day, Elior walked through the palace gardens. The bioluminescent plants cast soft, glowing light over the pathways, and fountains shimmered with flowing energy. He paused to reflect on the events of the past days, the anomalies, the council's tests, the successful operations. Humans had demonstrated not just intelligence, but a capacity for empathy, creativity, and leadership. Elior felt a sense of connection to this world, recognizing that humans could inspire and influence civilizations in ways that went beyond technology or knowledge alone. Queen Seraphina joined him in the garden, her presence serene yet commanding. "You have exceeded expectations," she said. "Your actions have shown that humanity possesses qualities we admire: courage, adaptability, and the ability to act decisively under uncertainty. Yet there is more to come. The galaxy is vast and challenges will grow. Your task is to continue demonstrating what your species can achieve, not through force, but through ingenuity, cooperation, and insight." Elior nodded. He understood the gravity of her words. Humanity's potential had been recognized, but it was now up to him to help realize it fully. In the days that followed, Elior continued to coordinate operations across multiple sectors. He applied human creativity to solve problems that had stymied even the most advanced AI systems. From stabilizing energy flows to mediating diplomatic tensions, his contributions were transformative. The Council's perception of humans shifted dramatically. They were no longer seen as impulsive or secondary. They were collaborators, innovators, and indispensable problem solvers. Elior had proven that human ingenuity could complement even the most sophisticated technology and strategy. By the end of the week, the sector had stabilized, the anomalies contained, and trade and communication routes secure. The council convened to review the operations, and this time the discussion was open, animated, and collaborative. Elior presented insights, proposed further improvements, and encouraged dialogue between species. The council members listened attentively, asking questions and considering ideas they might have previously dismissed. Humans, it seemed, were slowly becoming valued partners in decision-making processes that once relied solely on advanced computation and rigid protocol. Queen Seraphina observed quietly, her gaze calm but thoughtful. "You have shown that humans are more than curiosity," she said at last. "They are capable of leadership, innovation, and inspiration. Their unpredictability is not a weakness, it is a strength, a spark that can guide even the most advanced minds to solutions that would otherwise remain hidden. You have proven this today. Elior felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. The acknowledgement was deeply meaningful, yet he knew that humanity's journey was just beginning. As he returned to his quarters that night, Elior reflected on the lessons of the past days. Humans had faced immense challenges on Earth, often succeeding through adaptability, courage, and creativity. In the vastness of space, those same qualities were now being recognized by an advanced civilization. He understood that humanity's role in the galaxy would not be defined by force or dominance, but by insight, innovation, and the ability to act decisively when others hesitated. Elior lay down that night with a renewed sense of purpose. The challenges ahead would be greater, but humans had already shown that they could rise to any occasion. Through courage, creativity, and collaboration, they could contribute to civilizations far older and more advanced than their own. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and opportunities, and humanity had only begun to realize its place within it. The morning light bathed the palace of Scifi in a soft, golden glow, reflecting off the intricate surfaces and casting patterns of color across the grand hallways. Elior awoke with a sense of anticipation he had never felt before. The events of the previous weeks, the tests, the anomalies, and the challenges he had overcome, had brought humanity into a position few could have imagined. Humans were no longer observers or curiosities in the eyes of Scifi. They had demonstrated courage, creativity, and adaptability that even the most advanced civilization could not ignore. Yet, Elior knew that the ultimate proof of human ingenuity had not yet come. Today, the council had summoned him for a session unlike any other. Reports indicated that a massive cosmic storm, larger than any previously recorded, was approaching the Scifian sector. It threatened not only technological infrastructure, but also the safety of multiple colonies and trade routes. The council had calculated potential outcomes, yet the predictions were incomplete. Systems were capable of computation, but they could not anticipate the sudden shifts, the anomalies, and the uncertainty that such a storm would bring. Elior understood immediately that humans had a role to play, not through raw strength, but through insight, creativity, and decisive action. As he entered the council hall, he noticed the energy of the room was tense but focused. Council members, their forms glowing faintly, had gathered around the holographic projection of the storm. Swirling clouds of energy moved unpredictably, threatening to disrupt entire systems. Even Scifian calculations, precise and advanced, could not fully account for the storm's chaotic nature. Elior could feel the anticipation in the air. This was the kind of challenge humans thrived on, situations where creativity, courage, and adaptability could achieve results that raw computation alone could not. Queen Seraphina descended from her dais with her usual grace. Her metallic skin shimmered with hues of silver and gold, and her eyes, deep and intelligent, fixed on Elior. "Human," she said, her voice calm yet commanding, "this storm threatens more than infrastructure. It threatens trust and the stability of our sector. You have shown courage and insight in past challenges. Now you must demonstrate that humanity can rise to this occasion." Elior nodded, understanding the magnitude of the moment. This was not just about action. It was about leadership, about showing that humans could inspire, innovate, and protect even in the face of uncertainty. He immediately began analyzing the storm's patterns, looking for fluctuations that the Scifian systems had not accounted for. Small irregularities appeared, subtle hints in the energy flows that suggested potential methods of containment. Elior proposed a plan that combined Scifian technology with human strategies, methods based not only on calculation, but on intuition and adaptability. He suggested dynamic adjustments, rapid coordination, and collaborative decision-making, emphasizing flexibility over rigid protocol. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, cautious but intrigued. Queen Seraphina's voice broke the silence. "Lead the operation, human. Show us what your species is capable of." Elior felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. Lives, colonies, and perhaps the future of human-Xiphoran collaboration rested on this moment. Yet he was confident. Humans were capable of extraordinary things when the situation demanded courage, creativity, and insight. He gathered a team of engineers and advisors, Xiphoran and human alike, and began directing the operation. The storm reacted unpredictably, energy streams shifting violently and threatening to destabilize containment fields. Machines calibrated for precision struggled to respond. Elior relied on human intuition, proposing adjustments and improvisations in real time. His leadership inspired the team, allowing Xiphoran engineers to implement unconventional methods they might otherwise have dismissed. Slowly, the storm began to respond, energy flows stabilizing under the combined effort of human ingenuity and Xiphoran technology. The council observed in silent astonishment. They had expected calculations to solve the problem, yet it was human creativity, courage, and adaptability that guided the operation to success. Elior realized that humans were capable of acting decisively in uncertainty, combining intuition with skill to achieve results that even advanced civilizations could not predict. The storm, once a looming threat, was now contained, its energy harmonized into a stable pattern. Queen Seraphina rose from her seat, her voice echoing across the hall. "Human," she said, her eyes gleaming with quiet intensity, "your actions have prevented what could have been a catastrophe of unimaginable scale. You have shown courage, creativity, and leadership. Humanity's potential is no longer theoretical. It is visible, undeniable, and extraordinary." Elior felt a surge of pride, tempered by humility. Recognition from the Queen herself was an honor beyond words, yet he knew that humanity's journey in the galaxy was just beginning. The council members began discussing the operation openly, their voices animated. For the first time, many admitted that human ingenuity could complement Xiphoran precision, that unpredictability could be a strength rather than a weakness. Elior realized that perception was as important as action. Humans were no longer considered impulsive or secondary. They were collaborators, problem solvers, and innovators whose creativity could shape outcomes far beyond their home world. After the council recessed, Elior walked through the palace corridors, reflecting on the significance of the day. Humanity had demonstrated that courage, insight, and adaptability were just as valuable as advanced technology. He thought about Earth, where humans had survived and thrived despite countless challenges. The same qualities that had allowed them to endure on their home planet were now being recognized in an alien civilization. Elior felt a renewed sense of purpose, understanding that humans could play a meaningful role in the wider galaxy. Later, Queen Seraphina summoned Elior to her private chambers. The room was serene, illuminated by soft, ambient light that shimmered off her metallic skin. "You have exceeded all expectations," she said. "The Council recognizes that humanity is capable of extraordinary things. Your courage, insight, and ability to act decisively under uncertainty have inspired confidence and respect. Yet there is one final acknowledgement that must be made, one that will show the sector that humans are valued not only for their abilities, but for their spirit." Elior listened intently, feeling the weight of the moment. The following day, the council convened in the Grand Hall for a ceremonial assembly. Representatives from multiple colonies had gathered, and the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Elior entered the hall, feeling a mixture of pride, humility, and excitement. He had come to understand that this moment was not just for him, but for humanity itself. He walked to the center of the hall where the Queen awaited, her presence commanding attention and respect. The council members were silent, watching intently. Queen Seraphina rose from her dais, her eyes scanning the assembly before settling on Elior. She spoke clearly, her voice carrying across the vast hall. Today, we recognize not just the actions of an individual, but the spirit of an entire species. Humans have shown courage, creativity, and insight. They have acted decisively in the face of uncertainty, inspired collaboration, and protected lives across the sector. For this, one human stands as a symbol of their potential. Elior felt a moment of awe. The queen's words were powerful, yet he did not fully understand what she intended until she raised her voice slightly, proclaiming to the hall, "He is my human." The hall fell into complete silence. The words reverberated through the grand chamber, and for a moment, time itself seemed to pause. Every eye was on Elior. Council members, dignitaries, and representatives of distant colonies watched in astonishment. The declaration was more than symbolic. It was a recognition of humanity's worth, courage, and ingenuity. It was a statement that humans were no longer outsiders, but respected partners whose potential could influence the future of the galaxy. Elior bowed respectfully, feeling the immense weight and honor of the Queen's proclamation. He realized that this recognition was not about personal glory, but about humanity's place in the wider universe. Humans were being acknowledged not for dominance or force, but for creativity, courage, and the ability to act decisively in uncertainty. The qualities that had allowed them to survive and thrive on Earth were now celebrated across the stars. Following the ceremony, Elior worked closely with Queen Seraphina and the Council to establish initiatives that would strengthen human-Xiforan collaboration. Exploration teams were formed, combining human intuition and adaptability with Xiforan technology and precision. Trade routes were expanded, colonies were stabilized, and joint research projects began to flourish. Humanity's presence was no longer incidental, it was integral to the sector's progress and safety. As weeks passed, Elior continued to demonstrate the strengths of humanity. In every challenge, whether technological, strategic, or diplomatic, he applied creativity, courage, and moral reasoning. His actions inspired confidence among the Xiforans and encouraged collaboration across multiple species. Humans were no longer seen as unpredictable or secondary. They were innovators, leaders, and problem solvers capable of shaping the future of the galaxy. One evening, as Elior walked through the palace gardens, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From a human representative viewed with curiosity and skepticism, he had become a symbol of humanity's potential. The Queen's declaration, once a moment of surprise and honor, had become a catalyst for interstellar recognition of human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. Elior understood that this was just the beginning. Humanity's place in the galaxy was secured not through conquest, but through insight, creativity, and unwavering spirit. Looking out at the glowing city, the towers reaching toward the stars, Elior felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Humans had proven that they could rise to any challenge, adapt to any situation, and inspire confidence among civilizations far older and more advanced. Their creativity and courage were now recognized, celebrated, and respected across the sector. The words of the Queen echoed in his mind, "He is my human." They were more than a declaration. They were a promise of partnership, trust, and mutual respect. As night fell over Xiphora, Elior gazed at the stars, knowing that humanity's journey had only just begun. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, opportunities, and challenges. Yet humans, with their courage, creativity, and adaptability, were ready to face whatever lay ahead. They would not merely survive. They would inspire, innovate, and shape the future of civilizations far beyond their own world. And in that moment, Elior understood the truth of the Queen's words. Humans were extraordinary, and their potential was limitless. With renewed determination, Elior prepared for the days ahead. The sector, the colonies, and the interstellar community now looked to him as a representative of humanity's ingenuity and spirit. Every decision, every action, and every initiative would reflect the qualities that had brought humans recognition across the galaxy. Courage, creativity, adaptability, and moral insight were no longer abstract ideals. They were the foundation of humanity's legacy. In the quiet of the palace that night, Elior finally rested, confident that humanity's story had begun in earnest among the stars. The journey had been long, the challenges immense, yet the triumph was undeniable. Humans had proven their worth, not through force or dominance, but through ingenuity, courage, and the unwavering capacity to face the unknown. And with that, a new era began, a future where humanity would shine brightly among the stars, respected, celebrated, and limitless in potential.